So that completes the second legislation on forest, which is Forest Conservation Act 1980, which got amended in 88 and 96. 96 was a landmark amendment. Now the government is looking at amending it again. Why? For national security concerns and make it easier to use forest land for non-forest purposes. The third legislation is Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act 2006. Now, in this, if you look at some of the traditional forest dwellers, which include scheduled tribes and other forest dweller communities, they have been living there for generations. That we agree. They have been staying there for generations. Time unknown. They are born in the forest. They live through the forest. They die in the forest, and they have a strong bond with the forest. But is that forest area under their name? Is it registered in their name? For example, in a city, if you had to buy property, you need registration, right? There is a sale deed where the ownership is transferred from party A to party B. In case of forest, can we have a sale deed? No, because the forest area is India's property. It does not belong to any individual. That is point number one. Point number two. That's a fair point because it's a forest area. You can't really give away forest area to a private person. In the sense, that has also happened. But in this case, traditional forest dwellers, that is one justification that is advanced. The second, okay, you're not giving them forest land as a sale deed. It is not registered in them. But it is also a fact that they have been living for generations. Yeah. What happens if a company wants to set up a project in an area, in a forest area where there are forest dwellers? Okay, let's say a hydroelectric project needs to be made somewhere 50 kilometers, but the submergence caused due to the reservoir that will get on, it is going to submerge a lot of forest land. Will permission from the traditional forest dwellers be required? Is there a condition where they can be denied this right? Forest Rights Act is an attempt to address the long-standing demand of the forest dwellers, requesting the government that give us some right, maybe not title deed right, we are not absolute owners, but we should not be evicted on the whims and fancies either of the state or of the private party. So in order to reconcile these conflicting requirements, this Forest Rights Act came in 2006. So what does the act say? Let's look at the key features. First thing, vest the forest rights. On whom? On the traditional forest dwellers. Okay. Why do you do it? Because they have been staying in the forest for generations, but their rights is not documented. Same concept. You don't have a sale deed. You don't have a land registered in their name. So what is the intermediate path? Madhyama Pratipada, as Buddha would say. What is the middle path? The middle path is, under this act, it gave the forest dwellers certain rights. Rights to ensure control. Control over what? Control over forest resources. So rights to exert control over forest resource, which includes including right of ownership, but not on land, but to collect, use, and dispose minor forest produce and have certain overall community rights for a village or a set of villages in that forest area. So you are acceding to some of the demands, saying you have right of ownership on some of the forest produce, non-timber forest produce or minor forest produce. You won't be harassed by the government or the forest official because that much ownership you have. Okay, that is point number one. This is the first part of the Forest Rights Act. The second act it says is, suppose tomorrow, if you look at it, why is Naxalism? Why do Naxalism and backwardness of districts, or why are they directly correlated? They are directly correlated because people in those districts or those villages, they have been quote unquote left out of India's growth story. So how do you bring them in mainstream? You will bring them in mainstream by having the social infrastructure, like the school, like an Anganwadi center, like public health center, like panchayat office. So the basic essential things that is necessary. Now, if the forest dwellers have right of ownership, how can the government go and build some of these infrastructure projects for the benefit of the forest community? This should be allowed, right? So this is allowed. So what it says is the forest land can be used for public utility facilities, but with the recommendation of Gram Sabhas. That is how they'll get connected. You need electricity, you need telecommunication. So you are included in the mainstream of India's growth story. Otherwise, you continue to remain out of the growth story, and therefore there is a greater tendency for joining the Naxal movement, either by will or sometimes by force also. Okay, so this is in short, or just the two key points about the Forest Rights Act. Does this actually happen on the ground? The case study in Polavaram project seems to say that it does not happen. You can look at the news article and figure it out for yourself that Polavaram project is considered as one of the world's largest drip irrigation project, and it is expected to get completed by 2022-2023. But a lot of the tribes and forest dwellers livelihood, not just livelihood, their own presence is, or their villages, their way of life is threatened because the reservoir that will be created by the Polavaram forest is going to inundate those villages. So while theory is one, in practice, at least in the case of Polavaram, it seems to be the opposite. So this is one criticism. The second criticism has come from the wildlife conservation, especially the tiger conservation. They said that if you give forest dwellers the right to ownership, okay, it is possible that their movement to some of the tiger reserve core areas will increase. So they say that tiger conservation and Forest Rights Act cannot go together. So that is the second type of one criticism is whatever rights they have been guaranteed, that is not protected. Second criticism is too much rights for forest dwellers, not too much right, even the right of ownership of forest dwellers. Now they don't have to fear anymore. So they can go to honey wherever that honey is present. They can go and collect timber. In certain parts of area, timber wood is less, they can go slightly longer. So if you remember, in the biosphere reserve, we had this core, buffer, and transition areas. And in transition areas is where habitation is. But forest dwellers can move to the core and buffer area also in search for some of their satisfy their basic requirements if traditionally they have been living in those areas. So these are two concerns